Okay, so the connective tissue is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about cartilage, bone, and blood. Basically, those are the types of connective tissue, and they're abundant. They're found in every organ. Yesterday, the epithelial tissue, those cells are all packed together. There's not a lot of extracellular matrix. The connective tissue, there are cells that are surrounded by extracellular matrix, and then there'll be another cell with extracellular matrix around it. So there's many diverse types, and they have a lot of different functions. So some of the functions is to enclose organs as capsules and separate organs in layers. A lot of your mesenteries and the membranes. They connect tissues to one another. Like tendons and ligaments. What's the difference between a tendon and a ligament? Right, tendons attach the muscle to bone, and ligaments attach bone to bone. It's like in your knee, your ACL, that attaches your femur to your tibia. When you tear it? So your ACL is what keeps your femur from going forward. Like if you stop like this, it keeps it from going forward over your knee. And so if you tear it, then it can keep going. Like it shifts. Weird.
So like say in plastic surgery right now, what are they doing to it?
We'll watch one. I don't know what kind of online. It's a recorded one. It's a live one though. Like, so they would take, I don't know what kind of, a lot of times they use cadaver tendons now. They'll use a patellar tendon.
They just put something in there?
Yep, and then so it's about that long, and then they screw it in to your bone to keep it there, and it'll stabilize it. Yep. Mine was a hamstring tendon, so they took out part of a hamstring tendon and put it in. They used to use a lot of just your own patellar tendon, but then you get tendonitis in your patellar tendon really easily later on.
Extremely stupid or genius? You technically really don't need your ACL unless if you're like planting and cutting and stuff.
Correct.
Right?
Yep. You don't need like what? Right. If you aren't active at all, you don't need it. Like you're just walking. You can walk on it.
If he wasn't going to do like sports again, he doesn't even need to get fixed.
Right. You really aren't supposed to run or anything too much. I mean, if you're not.
So what would happen if you did like take the ACL out, but then like your current
I think you could run, but it'd be very unstable. Like your knee would be wobbly. Yeah, it'd be just really unstable. You might get a lot of scar tissue in there, and it would click and pop a lot. Yeah. If you have torn meniscus, though, then that can catch, and it can make your knee lock up and stuff. Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
People that play like intense sports in high school, they always end up like by the age of 40.
Bad knees. Yep. Another function is support and movement. It's your bones. And storage for fat, and not just storage of lipids, but also for, there's a lot of fat-soluble vitamins. So they store the vitamins, and then you use it as you need it. Cushion and insulation and transport. Blood transports a lot of dissolved gases and also other nutrients and stuff. And then also protection. White blood cells are part of your immune system, and so that white blood cells are connective tissue, and they are part of that. Yeah, your red bone marrow, it's into your bone, yep. And then we have some cells that produce extracellular matrix. So we'll see a lot of these descriptive word stems, the suffixes. If you have blast cells, those would create matrix. And a way I remember is a blast builds, and then the last one, class consume. So B and B, C and C, blast build, class consume. The matrix is going to be what surrounds the cell, like it'll be made up of proteins and other, like glycoproteins and stuff. Yeah.
What did you say for that?
Blast build. So they create the matrix. So like for bone, the matrix is made out of some collagen and then some mineral, and so they are what put that all together around them. And then sites are what maintain the matrix, and class break down from remodeling. So if we use the term osteoblast, what's the prefix osteo mean? Bone. So it's a bone builder. So it builds bone, creates the bone matrix. Class, so if we have an osteoclast, it rebuilds or breaks down bone. And then sites are just the cells that maintain and are just there all the time. And chondrocyte is the example there. What's the prefix chondro mean? No? It means cartilage. So if you have a chondrocyte, it's maintaining the cartilage matrix. Whoops. I was trying to turn it in my hand. It dropped. No. Okay, so some of the cells, other cells, we have adipose cells, which are fat cells. They're called adipocytes. They're common in some tissues, like under the skin, the dermis of the skin, and then rare in some. In cartilage, there's not hardly any adipocytes. Whoops. Trying to get this put back together. Okay, mast cells are common and beneath your membranes and along the small blood vessels because it releases heparin, which is a. Do you guys know what heparin is? Oh. Heparin. It is a blood thinner. So if you're
How are you so smart?
if you have grandparents that have heart attacks or something, they might be on heparin, which is a blood thinner. So it keeps their blood from clotting. And then white blood cells are leukocytes. The prefix leuko means white, so a white cell, white blood cell. And they are what respond to injury or infection. So if you hear the word leukemia, it's the cancer of the white blood cells, the bone or blood cancer. Macrophages phagocytize debris and bacteria to provide protection. And there are fixed macrophages, which they stay in one spot and they stay in position in the connective tissue, or wandering, they move around by amoeboid movement. And like when we watched the Monsters Inside Me video and they had the amoeboid, the amoeba in his brain, the brain-eating amoeba. And so did you remember the picture of when he moved, it kind of like shot out these, they're called pseudopods, but they like feet thing, and then it drags itself. That's kind of how the white blood cells move through your body too. And then undifferentiated mesenchyme are stem cells which have the potential to differentiate into many adult cell types. The extracellular matrix is made of a lot of protein fibers, and there's these three different types of protein fibers. Collagen is the most common, and it's very strong, flexible, and inelastic. Well, it resists movement, but it's able to move. Like, it's not brittle, so it's not going to break. I don't know. I know that a lot of places in Mexico do stem cell therapy, and because I know a gal that goes down there, but they use shark stem cells, and it works in humans. And
You ever seen on Wild Boys when they got in Mexico and they put like a leech in Stevo's eyes?
gross. So, well, and I know, like, that's when you hear of the controversy over stem cells, it's not like stem cells are good to use for treatments for a lot of things. It's where you get the stem cells is where the controversy comes into. So there's a lot of places in adult bodies that you can get stem cells. So that's one side. The one side says you shouldn't use the embryos or fetus stem cells. You should just use adult, or like my friend's daughter uses. They use a shark stem cell for that. So you can use other sources. That's where the controversy comes in.
Exactly what do they do when they give you stem cell?
I'm not exactly sure. They just inject it in there, or, well, my friend's, her daughter had, it's called lesencephaly, but you know how the brain is usually all curved and looks like cauliflower? It's smooth, so it looks like a mushroom. So she can't really, she's very disabled, very handicapped, and that's what they're using it to treat. And she gets seizures a lot, and so. It did for a while, but she quit going and getting treatment. It doesn't fix it, but I don't think so. Oh, that's E-stem. That's like electrical stimulation. That's what STEM stands for there.
How come when they put in stem cells, why don't you just like grow a regular soup?
I don't know how the body manipulates them, but your body can tell it what to become, kind of thing. She is 6 now, and she can say like 4 words, I think, and she can't walk or anything. Yeah. So then reticular cartilage, or well, to the collagen, what's in your skin, and so as you get older, collagen breaks down, and that's why the older people get a lot of wrinkles, because it breaks down, and so then the inelastic part keeps your skin nice and firm and unwrinkly, and so as it breaks down, yeah, so you get Botox. Or if you watch, like, for a facial cream, a lot of times on commercials, they'll say it has collagen in it, you list. Yeah, that's what they're building this up.
So how do you get
I don't
collagen?
I don't know. How do you, well, I don't know. How do you make it?
How do
Or
you
what?
get it?
They can,
Common protein bodies, so like take it in somehow.
I'm sure, it's just like the mRNA and all that, how they make the proteins. It's one of those proteins that you just make a lot of it. Reticular proteins, they fill spaces between tissues. They form branching networks, and we'll see a few, like some tendons and ligaments have reticular cartilage in. And then elastic, they would return to the original shape after distension or compression. Like in your ear, you can move your ear and it goes back to shape. It springs back. And then another matrix molecule, it's not a protein, but it's, well, it is a protein, but it's a protein and polysaccharide. And it's a proteoglycan. And it resembles pine tree limbs, so it's very branched. And those branches is what helps trap water and keeps it, well, it's not going to be brittle. It's going to be able to spring back to whatever form it was in when it has compression on it. So we're going to go through the adult connective tissue here: loose, dense, adipose, reticular, cartilage, bone, and blood. So the loose or areolar fibers are collagenous fibers that are loosely arranged, and we'll see a picture of it next on the next slide. Then dense fibers form thick bundles, and those are more like the tendons and ligaments. And then there are some with special properties we'll get to a little later there. We'll go through each of those. Here's not on this one. Yep. It's just connective tissue in an adult body. Like, as you're a child, it's developing, so you might not have everything. Ready? So loose or areolar tissue is attaches skin to underlying surfaces. So if this is your skin and this top layer is the epidermis, right beneath that is going to be the loose areolar tissue connecting it to the hypodermis. And this looks like adipose tissue right here. And then this on the very bottom is muscle tissue. So this is a microscopic view of it, and you can see how it's very irregular. There's a lot of space in between it. So it's very loose. That's why it gets its name, loose connective tissue. Unlike the dense connective tissue, is a lot closely packed, more regular in orientation. And so we already talked about tendons connect muscles to bones, ligaments connect bone to bone. It's just a lot more compact. There. So in tomorrow's lab, it's going to be on epithelial and connective tissue. So we're going to look at microscope slides of a lot of these different types of tissues. Okay. So tendons and ligaments there. Dense elastic connective tissue is found in your vocal cords, and there's the collagen fiber that gives you the strength for when you're shouting or talking very loud, but elastic fibers are more prevalent because the way vocal cords work is they vibrate, and that's what produces the sound waves. And so it has to be able to be elastic to move back and forth. So that is a picture of your vocal cords, the type of tissue there. And then adipose tissue, the predominant cells are adipocytes. And there's yellow adipose tissue, which is the most abundant type. And it begins as white and yellows with age. And actually, when you're born, you have a lot of brown fat, which has a lot higher energy source. So when you're younger, that's what there's more. Well, you have a lot more when you're younger than when you are older. And then brown fat is found only in specific areas, the axillae, like your armpit, your neck, and then near the kidneys. Okay. That would be what you would burn first. Like if you're going into starvation or something, you'd burn all that. Brown would be the last. Higher. Yeah, I would say yellow is probably easier to burn, and it gives you not quite as much energy. Doesn't have the energy stored that brown does. Then cartilage, composed of chondrocytes. Chondro means cartilage again. And they are located in the matrix, and there's little spaces called lacunae. And that's where the chondrocyte is located. And different cartilages can be composed of different proteins in the matrix, so it gives them different functions. And it also has that ground substance of the proteoglycan, and that just helps trap that water, makes it more, I don't want to say more springy, so it springs back after being compressed. It's able to reform itself after being compressed. And so there's 3 different types: hyaline, fibro, and elastic. Oh, and it's avascular, meaning there's no blood supply and there's no nerve supply, which is why cartilage heals so slow. So if you have a knee injury and it's just ACL, that will heal a lot faster than if you have to have some sort of cartilage repair also. Because people who have cartilage repair, a lot of times are on crutches almost 2 weeks longer than if you just have an ACL repair. And it just takes a lot longer to heal. So here's the hyaline cartilage. What?
Is that the most like common injury?
ACL. ACL.
It's just pretty easy to tear it.
Yeah, well, it's how it goes through the knee, like as it goes through your knee joint. And also it's just the movement that a cutting movement. So anytime you stop or turn, that's using your ACL. I mean, that's what's holding your bones there.
Did you have something like that?
I had ACL reconstruction.
You tore it?
Mm-hmm.
When?
My freshman year in college.
Basketball practice?
In the game.
The game?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hmm? No, I didn't think I did it. Nope. I don't know. I just swelled really bad though. It was really swollen. But mine was weird, like, because I went up for a shot and I got hit and I landed. So then I got landed wrong because I got hit in the air. And so I was going to fall probably anyways. Yep. I didn't shoot my free throw though. So mine wasn't like a cutting type injury that a lot of them do. So those are all the chondrocytes, and that's the lacunae also where the chondrocytes are located, little spaces. Hyaline cartilage are on all the ends of your joints, or all the ends of the bones at your joints. So the bones are covered in the cartilage at the ends. It gives you a smooth surface. For an articulation, just means a joint. You're in embryo, your skeleton is mostly made of cartilage, and then it will harden as they grow older. There. If you have arthritis, as older people get, then cartilage becomes worn down, or sometimes they get little knobby things on it, and that gets painful. You can get acid or salt buildup in there also, which it attributes to the arthritis also. Then fibrocartilage, it's a lot tougher than the hyaline cartilage. It's able to withstand a lot more compression. So it's in your joints that receive a lot of pounding, like your knee joints, that your meniscus in your knee is made up of fibrocartilage. And then your back, in between your vertebrae, the intervertebral disc is made up of the fibrocartilage. Mm-hmm.
So you just born with this, or like as you go like you convert to fibrocartilage?
Like in your knee, your meniscus, I don't know how much
Like,
you do have in your knee when you're first born.
Because like if you have a job that's hard, your arms are on this or something. I don't know. What your elbows jobs are.
You don't have as much fibrocartilage in your elbow. But even in, like, if you wear it down, it's not like you regenerate it very easily. Like a slip disc or bulging disc, that would be the vertebral disc that is either shifted or getting pushed out. And then elastic cartilage, very springy. I don't know, it holds its shape, returns to its shape really easily, like your ear, and then your nose, tip of your nose, or in your epiglottis. That's what closes your trachea, your air tract. It's when you swallow, so nothing gets into your respiratory system. It's also made of that. And then, different people have different amounts of different types of protein in their elastic cartilage, because some people have really wobbly ears, like the really bendable ears. Some people don't, or their nose, like I have pretty firm cartilage in my nose. Some people, my sister she can make her nose like flat to her face when she pushes it down. So that all depends. No. Or you could ask Cody Levine to make his popping noise with his nose. Yeah. Oh, I knew a girl who could do that. Yeah. And that was her habit. Instead of chewing nails, she would like put her ears in her side her ear.
Yeah, they did it. They would read and you'd look over and they'd both be doing it. In elementary, we thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Bone, we aren't going to go into a lot of detail with bone, just because when we get to the skeletal chapter, we'll do a lot more with it. But we have a lot harder connective tissue, a lot more minerals in their matrix, which makes it hard. There's an organic, the collagen fibers. There are collagen fibers, and then the inorganic is the hydroxyapatite. It's a lot of calcium and phosphate, which is why you need calcium for your bones to grow. And it stores up calcium for your bodies to use. There's osteocytes located in the lacunae again, and there's cancellous or spongy bone or compact bone. Well, there's the lacunae in this picture down here, these little black dots that are in a ring, those are where the osteocytes are, and that's the space that's called the lacunae, where they're located.
Where are they located?
In lacunae. So the spongy bone have trabeculae. It looks like scaffolding kind of with a lot of space, like a sponge, like an ocean sponge, or a loofah if you get those for the shower or whatever. But it's in the ends of long bones. So if this is your femur, up here is your spongy bone in all this area. In the shaft of the long bones, it's hollow and it's filled with bone marrow. And then compact bone is on the outside, like on the edges that goes around. And that's where you have the concentric layers of the bone. It kind of looks like tree rings as you go. And then blood, the matrix is plasma. It's liquid. It's the only connective tissue that has a liquid as its matrix. And the matrix is formed by other tissues, not its own tissue. And so the blood moves through vessels, but it can move out of the vessels also. We talked about the white blood cells moving out. And there's red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Platelets are used in clotting, and that's your formed elements. And the hemopoietic tissue is just the blood-forming tissue, and that is in your bone marrow, and there's yellow and red. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Okay, we'll talk about this, and I'll go back. So hemopoietic tissue forms blood cells, and that is in the bone marrow. And the red bone marrow is where the blood cells are actually formed, and it's in the spongy bone of the long bones. And then yellow is yellow adipose tissue that fills the shaft of the long bones. And when you are, as a child, your whole bone is made up of red bone marrow usually, and then as you grow and your bone gets longer, it gets replaced by yellow marrow. There. It's just adipose tissue. Yep. Fat storage.